Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome. This is the second part of the Unit 5 review. Happens to be Chapter 7, Thinking, Language, and Intelligence. Let us begin. Alright, so cognition, I hope you know what that word means. Honestly, if you see mental processes, thinking, thoughts, anything like that, it should lead you in the direction of cognition. Alright, so, perception, language, attention, memory, all of that has to do with cognitive psychology. Okay? There's some parts that the human's really good at, and it's mental images and concepts and forming these things and working with these images in the human mind. So the mental image, a mental representation of objects or events that are not physically present. Okay? There's that study done with this fake island, and they do this thing where you actually trace your finger across the island, and it takes a little bit of time, then they ask you to close your eyes and then go from one point to another point in your mind on the island, and guess what? It's comparable. It's basically, okay, guess what? We actually move across the image in our mind just like we would in real life. So we can rotate mental images, all that kind of stuff as well. Then we have concepts. So you have to know the difference between a formal concept and a natural concept. So a formal concept has rules. And then a natural concept has fuzzy boundaries. It could be a little bit more vague and ambiguous. You have to know, when it comes to natural concepts, the difference between prototype and exemplar. Prototype is the best example. All right? I don't know why orange is the best example of fruit on this list, because it should be apple, and we all know that. But for some reason, it's orange. And whenever we think about vehicles, boom, that's easy, car, right? That is the best example. And then any other example is known as an exemplar. All right? Problem solving, obviously we've got, disability, ingrained in us because it's what we've done for hundreds of thousands of years. So there's some different types of strategies for problem solving. We have trial and error. I think you would probably understand what that is. A lot of attempts and a lot of failures in order to find the success, right? That's what trial and error is. We do this a lot, I think. The wheel is a great example. I mean, it gets better and better and better through trial and error. Then we have algorithms. They always work. It's just like a math formula. So know that. An algorithm will always work. Then we move on to a heuristic, which is just a mental shortcut. So simplifying the problem, right? Then insight, sudden realization, boom, an aha moment. Intuition is kind of an interesting thing. You have this unconscious, you're taking in things unconsciously, right? And then you have this, moment where the pattern is recognized, okay? And you're like, ooh, it's a cold. You have a cold. You know what I mean? Something like that is happening there. So you see it. The one guiding stage, you perceive a pattern in the information you're considering, but not consciously. And then you have the integrative stage. Representation of the pattern becomes conscious, usually in the form of a hunch or a hypothesis. And then all of a sudden, boom, intuition. I think the best example of it is doctors' intuition. They see so many patients, and then they see so many things and symptoms, and all of a sudden they get really, really, really good at predicting what is wrong with you without ever administering any type of test. Whoa, look at that transition. Oh yeah, I remember that. All right, demonstration of insightful solutions. That was a good example that we did. Obstacles in solving problems, we have functional fixedness, one of my favorite things in psychology, the tendency to view objects as functioning only in their usual or customary way. I'm from West Virginia. When things break, we fix them, and we fix them in weird ways. Okay? So it's using things in possibly not their customary ways to solve a problem. All right? So this can prevent us from seeing a full range of ways in which an object can be used. Then we have a mental set, so the tendency to persist in solving problems with solutions that have worked in the past, and a mental set can actually put blinders on you, and you won't be able to see maybe a quicker, better, more efficient solution because of it. So there's a good chance that it has worked in the past, it'll work again. Sometimes if we approach a problem with a rigid mental set, we may not see other possible solutions. All right, different types of decision-making strategies. We have the single feature model. So in order to simplify the choice among many alternatives, you base your decision on a single feature. So yeah, laundry detergent is the example here. You base your decision on money. If you think that the best laundry detergent available for you to buy is going to be the most expensive, okay. And if for some reason you don't have a lot of money, what do you have to buy? The cheapest laundry detergent, right? So that's what you're doing. You're basing it on a single feature. The additive model, so you kind of systematically evaluate things by assigning a number to them. So you rate the factors using an arbitrary scale, -5 to +5. If the factor has strong drawbacks, you give it a -5 or -4 or -3. If it is advantageous, you give it a +5, +4, +3, whatever. And then at the end, you add up all the ratings for each alternative and you reveal the best overall choice. That's not a bad thing to do whenever you decide what college you're going to or something like that. Then we have the elimination by aspects model. So evaluate all the alternatives, one characteristic at a time, typically starting with the feature you consider most important. So if a particular alternative fails to meet the requirements, you scratch that off the list of your possible choices, and you do this until there's nothing left. Good decision makers use all of these. It just depends on the situation. All right, the differences between availability and representative heuristic. A heuristic is a mental shortcut, as we know. Availability heuristic is the most recently available memory of your current situation that you're deciding. So I think this is a speeding ticket example. So should you speed or not because you're late for an appointment, and your friend just got a speeding ticket yesterday, what happens there is that's fresh in your mind, and so you decide not to speed. That's the availability heuristic. It is the most recently available memory or instance of your current situation that you're in. And then the representative heuristic is a mental shortcut where, are we representative of the thing that we're wary of right now? So it's like, okay, speeding ticket, I don't want one, but am I a young male driving a 2-door tinted window red sports car? Yes, I am. So I am representative, right? It's like I am the representation of the person who does get speeding tickets. So I shouldn't speed. Okay? So that's the difference between availability and representative heuristic. We use these all the time, you just don't even know it. All right, some biases, right? So the belief bias effect, you're gonna see these. I promise you, you're gonna see something like this on the AP exam. The belief bias effect occurs when people accept only the evidence that confirms their belief, rejecting or ignoring any evidence that does not. You see this a lot of time in religion. Confirmation bias, the strong tendency to search for information or evidence that confirms a belief while making little or no effort to search for information that might disprove the belief. You see this all the time in, term papers. You never looked at any information other than the information you needed to prove your thesis. The fallacy of positive instances, the tendency to remember uncommon events that seem to be or seem to confirm our beliefs, and to forget events that disconfirm our beliefs. I love thinking about FIFA during this. The video game. Some people just refuse to believe that they're bad at FIFA because they only remember their wins. You know, I beat you in FIFA. No, I beat you 50 times in FIFA. You beat me once. You know, but they don't remember that. It's like, no, I beat you. Okay. Then the overestimation effect, the tendency to overestimate the rarity of events. Man, every time I think about this person, they call me or they text me. That's not true. That's not true. But it's so rare when it happens that you think that it actually happens a little bit more than it does. You know what I'm saying? Because it's kind of, it sticks to you a little bit. You're like, dang, that was weird. That was weird. Language. Please know this, I've seen this on the AP exam. So syntax, the set of rules for combining words. You know what things are supposed to sound like, right? When you read it, and if it doesn't make sense to you, but the words, if you jumble them up a little bit, it like looks jumbled. It has no syntax, right? So know that. Language is generative or creative, so infinite number of new and different phrases. Linguistic relativity hypothesis, meaning that we're in a prison of our own language when it comes to thoughts. That we can't think necessarily more than what our language allows us to. So I think the best example is Eskimos. They have 100 words for snow. We have like 3. Animal cognition or comparative psychology is just studying animal cognition, right? Memory learning, all that kind of stuff. There's kanji, the bonobo. Intelligence, global capacity to think rationally, act purposefully, and deal effectively with the environment. So let's look at some intelligence tests. At first we have Alfred Binet. So French psychologist, along with Theodore Simon, they developed the Binet-Simon intelligence test. It was the first widely used intelligence test. So they discovered mental age. So it was a measurement of intelligence in which an individual's mental level is expressed in terms of the average abilities of a given age group. So if you score like a 10-year-old and you're 12 years old, you have a mental age of 10. Okay? Louis Terman takes the Stanford Binet intelligence scale and kind of adopts it for use in the United States. He's the first person to really come up with IQ. Remember that this is something that you have to remember. Mental age divided by real age times 100, boom, IQ. Okay? It does predict success. Okay? Then the Army takes intelligence tests. They divided it up into 2 types of tests. So Army Alpha, you could read and write, boom, you take the Army Alpha. If you couldn't read and write, you took the Army Beta test. And then they ended up giving these tests to people coming in, immigrants, and then they published the results, and it resulted in wide discrimination and prejudice about certain groups of people because they scored low on the tests. Then we have the David Wechsler test, which is the Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale. And this is when the bell curve comes out. So here we go. You might see this, and it might be called bell curve. It might be called normal distribution, whatever it is. But all you have to realize about things like this is that the average scores populate in the middle and make it look like a bell. Okay? He comes up with a test. There's a verbal score and a performance score. So he changed the way IQ was calculated, and we use this bell curve and this average score of 100 for a particular age group, and then you move, left and right. Left being getting a little bit not so smart, and then right getting smarter and smarter, I guess, intelligent. Achievement test versus aptitude test, that's a confusing pair. Kind of focus on that a little bit. This one right here is in the AP exam review packet that I posted on Canvas. I'm telling you, take a look at those confusing pairs. There's a section on there that says confusing pairs, and just take a look at it, read it, and just try to let it soak in for a second. Standardization, the administration of a test to a large representative sample of people under uniform conditions for the purpose of established norms. If you don't know what standardized testing is, what have you been doing? Then we have, again, norms, normal curve, normal distribution, that's the bell curve. Reliability, does the test produce consistent results? And then validity, the ability of the test to measure what it is actually intended to measure. Charles Spearman comes up with this thing called G factor. Basically says that intelligence can be boiled down into one thing. So he'd be down with like an IQ score, right? Then we have Louis Thurstone, and he basically says that intelligence is not just one thing. There's actually multiple intelligences, like verbal comprehension, word fluency, number use, spatial visualization. Oh, I think I just had my first seizure. But I'm back. Associative memory, perceptual speed, reasoning, all that, multiple intelligences. He'd be down with the Wechsler test. And so would this guy. All right, so Howard Gardner, so he comes up with the multiple independent intelligences, the 8 intelligences that we could possibly be scored on. There's tests out there that you can take. They're kind of fun. Linguistic, logical, mathematical, musical, spatial, bodily, kinesthetic. Please know the difference between interpersonal and intrapersonal. Interpersonal being between other people, intrapersonal being yourself, and then naturalistic. Here we go. We've already talked about this guy before, Cattell. So he comes up with a 16 personality factor test, but he also comes up with fluid intelligence and crystallized intelligence. So fluid intelligence is your ability to solve problems, new problems, and solve them quickly and efficiently. Crystallized intelligence is like all the facts you'll ever know in your entire life. So eventually you get to the peak of fluid intelligence, and then you start losing that ability to solve problems quickly and efficiently. But you keep on gaining crystallized intelligence until the day you die. Sternberg, I always remember this guy because there's 3 things that he comes up with intelligence. And I always remember that, one of my favorite burgers is the triple stack at Wendy's, bro. A triple stacked Baconator. 3 patties, 3 intelligences for old Sternberger. Okay? Now that's weird, and that might be a stretch, but maybe you'll remember it. So the triarchic theory of intelligence: analytic intelligence, so problem solving, creative intelligence, imagination, innovation, and then practical intelligence would be street smarts. So he thinks that all of those play on one another. And then we have autism. So we've talked about this a little bit. Autistic savant, extraordinary talent or ability, usually in a very limited area such as math, art, or music. 1 in 10 people with autism are savants. Autism is pretty much characterized by impaired social abilities, honestly. Verbal, nonverbal communication, hard for them. Repetitive or odd motor behaviors, highly restrictive interest in routines. A term for us is mental retardation, disorder characterized by intellectual function that is significantly below average, usually characterized by an IQ 70 or below. We have the Raven's progressive matrices test. This is an intelligence test for people with autism. And then Asperger's syndrome, behavioral syndrome characterized by varying degrees of difficulty in social and conversational skills, but normal to above average intelligence language development, all that kind of stuff. So then we have, psychologists love twin studies. They love them, okay? Please know what the differences between identical and fraternal twins are. So identical share the same genes because they're developed by a single fertilized egg. Fraternal twins, 2 different eggs, okay? Thinking about anything else I need to tell you guys. Oh, Claude Steele. Love this guy's name. Stereotype threat. We've already talked about it. My favorite of all time is white men can't jump. All right? If I let that have some sort of effect on me, guess what? I'll just believe that I can't jump and I'll never try. All right, we're done. Yay.